Right. Another question. Still dealing with the shear force and the bending moment diagram. Here we have a UDL, a uniformly distributed load. But in this case, this uniformly distributed load is on the whole length of the beam, which is equal to 6 meters. And we are requested to draw the shear force diagram, the bending moment diagram. And for just a quick reminder, shear force and bending moment are the twin effects that subject a beam to a failure. We'll always have those twin effects. And whenever a beam is loaded, be it by a point load, be it by a distributed load, either a UDL or a VDL, be it by an applied moment, those types of loadings will always give or subject a beam to a shearing off or to a bending moment. The beam could be subjected by those twin effects because as the load are consistently applied on the beam is under stress for the time when it is loaded. And then that can easily cause failure by shearing off or failure by bending if the beam takes a deflection to a certain excess. Now, this is the question that is given, a UDL, which is 10 kilonewtons per meters on a beam that is simply supported, and we are requested to draw the shear force and bending moment diagrams. First and foremost, we need to calculate the reactions. And to get the reactions, we all know how to proceed for the reactions. And this applying the first condition of equilibrium will help us, mainly the second condition of equilibrium will help us to generate the reactions. Sum of clockwise moment, algebraic sum obviously of clockwise moment and anti-clockwise moment should be equal to 0, either on the pivot B to get RA, either on the pivot A to get RB. Based on these two equations, it is possible to get RA, which is 30 kilonewtons, and RB should also be 30 kilonewtons. Apart from that, what we need to do is to get the resultant UDL. Here the UDL is loaded uniformly on the whole length. How do we calculate the resultant UDL? Is by taking the value per unit of length, which is 10 kilonewtons per meters, times the total length, and this will give us 60 kilonewtons. And we will represent that 60 kilonewtons on the beam. And what is this 60 kilonewtons represent? Is the resultant UDL. And the resultant UDL, it's not a point load. It's a virtual force. And a virtual force that represents the effect of all these loads that are evenly distributed on the beam. But in calculations, we can use it as a point load, but it's not representing a point load. Its physical meaning represents a virtual load that have an impact or an influence on the whole length because the UDL is evenly distributed. And then that 60 kilonewtons will be positioned at the center of gravity of the beam, which is situated at half of the length, and that we will have 60 kilonewtons. But whenever we're dealing with distributed loads and we want to draw the shear force and bending moment diagram, we need to represent also to get the mathematical function of this resultant load. We know that to get this, we have to take the load per unit of length multiplied by the length. the load per unit of length was 10. If the length, we substitute it by x, because we want to represent this mathematically, it means we need to have a dependent variable and an independent variable. The total load is representing the dependent variable, but the length is the independent variable. There is a correlation between the length and the total load or the resultant load. Then mathematically, if we have the load per unit of length times the length, this will give us the total length. In this case, it will be 60 kilonewtons because the total length is 6. But because the load is varying, if we have to represent 60 mathematically, it will be that 10 times the length, which is x, and therefore mathematically this can be represented as 10x. And knowing that if x is 6, the total will be 60. Now we have to be able to do that every time we have a UDL or a VDL. Once we've calculated our total load, we should also be able to express that total load in terms of the independent variable, which is the length. In this case, it will be, as we got 60, 60 was the product of the unit, the force per unit of length, times the length. Here we assume that the length, not assuming, but we know that the length is a variable. And if we replace it by x, our function becomes 10x, which is representing 60 kilonewton once we've covered the whole length of 6 meters. In this case, now, having done that, now let's start with calculations for the shear force, and then we'll do the bending moment diagram. Shear force at A left. At the left of A, as we can see, our B at the left of A, we have nothing, there's no load, therefore it's obviously equal to 0. Shear force at A right. Now, if we reach the point A and we look at the y of A, we directly get into the zone. It could be here or wherever it could be, but it's at the right of A. We will have the reaction and a portion of the UDL, and therefore the equation will be RA minus 10x, because we're still on the UDL, on the zone where the UDL is distributed. And the mathematical expression, if we're still on the UDL zone, we'll use the mathematical expression of the UDL instead of the total, because we haven't covered, we're still moving towards the other support, and because we're not on the other support, we're still in the zone that is not yet to the support, we can represent the total load by x. Now we know that x varies from 0 to 6, because we have here, this is a mathematical function that can be represented as y. This shear force at A right is y, and RA can be B, 10x, can be something like AX. Therefore, mathematically, that one will be like that. And then we know this equation, y is equal to B minus y is equal to B minus AX. If we have to represent it on a x, on a y graph, it will be a straight line from B toward that side. Now, x varies from 0 to 6. Here, we need to express different values. We will go for x equal to 0 to 6, the shear force at A right will be RA minus 10 times 0, because x is 0, and this will be RA, which is 30. For x equal to 1, the shear force at A left, we're going to use this equation for x that goes from 0 to 6, and that's what we're doing right now. For x is equal to 1, the shear force at A right will be RA minus 10 times 1. And this will give us 30 minus 10, it will be 20 kilonewtons. We'll go for 2. The shear force will be RA minus 10 times 2, which is 10 kilonewtons. will go up to 6 because x is the value of the length and it's our variable, and mathematically a variable, an independent variable is a variable that we can give different values to get the value of an independent value. An independent variable, as I meant, an independent value will give different values and generate values of the dependent variable. And here the variable goes from 0 to 6, then we can have from 0 up to 6. But because it's a straight, it's a line, I mean, we just need 2 points. We can take x equal to 0 and x equal to 6. Here, if we get to x equal to 6, what's going to be the shear force at x equal to 6? It will be Ra minus 10 times 6, and this will be minus 30. It means for x equal to 6, once we reach this point, the value of the shear force will be minus 30. Already this equation helps us to solve already what will be the value of x, the value of the shear force when we are at the maximum length. Now we will move, go to the other point as well. Shear force. We can take a point C here as well, where there's a load, the resultant load. We can take it if we want, but we don't have to. We can move from A to B, but if we want more accuracy, we can still take it. Nothing will change. We can take the shear force at B left. At B left will be the same. Then the A right will have the same equation, meaning that the results that we plotted here are the same. It's just a confirmation of what we've done. Then shear force at B right. Now at B right, what happens? We are beyond the support B. We have now covered the whole length of the UDL. By covering the whole length of the UDL, it means we have now a load, a resultant load of 60, which is the virtual load that gives us the same effect than the 10x when we were on the length of the UDL. It means now outside of B, we'll use 60 because we don't have the variability of the load anymore after B. There's no variation of the load here. There's no distributed load. Then what's going to be the equation here? B right, it will be Ra, as you can see. It will be minus 60 because 60 is going downwards. We could have used 10x if we were still on one of the points of the beam, but because we are beyond, let's use the total because the whole beam is covered. Minus 60 and then minus, plus Rb. And we can see that in this equation, Ra plus Rb minus 60, this will be 30 minus 60 plus 30, this will be equal to 0. And that will help us to close our shear force. Then let's plot the values. At A left, it's 0. At A right, that's where we have a different numbers of points to plot because there's a variability of the length. It goes from 0, for x equal to 0, the shear force at A right will give us 30. We'll have 30 here. And then from 30, we can see that the values are decreasing up to minus 30. Means when we reach B, it will be at minus 30. And because this is a function, the mathematical function that is represented by that one, we all know that it will be a linear function and then a straight line up to minus 30. And here there's this shear force that crosses the 0 line. And remember, wherever the shear force crosses the 0 line, that way we have a bending moment maximum. It will show in the calculation of the bending moment. And this point, because it's half, it should be at half of 3 meters. That way we'll have that one. Next point C. We put the sign, we reinforce our diagram, and this is our shear force diagram. For the bending moment, quickly, bending moment at A. What do we have? 0, because the reaction is acting on the pivot. We have one force on the pivot and there's no moment arm. Bending moment at, we can take C as well. If I make all this C, it's fine. Nothing will change. We're still going to get the same result. But we can go straight to B. Nothing wrong as well. If we take the bending moment at B, what is it going to be? At B is still on the UDL. What is it going to be? It will be RA times X, which is the length, and representing the moment arm, and RA create a clockwise moment. The moment arm is the length, which we can call X, because we still have our beam UDL on the, we still on the zone of the UDL if B is here, so after B, minus this one, because we're still on the beam, minus 10x as the force, and what is this? This is half of x, 10x times x over 2. This is the moment arm, this is the force, 10x, and minus 10x because it's creating an anti-clockwise moment. And this equation will be RA times x minus 5x squared, a quadratic equation, as you can see, the bending moment at B. Now we know with this equation, as long as we can see the variable x, we know that x varies from 0 to x equal to 6. In this equation, we will substitute for x equal to 0. What's going to be the BM at B? For x equal to 0, this will be 0. For x equal to 1, we will have a certain value. For x equal to 2, we'll have a certain value of this bending moment at B. For x equal to 3, up to the time we'll get to x equal to 6, we'll have a certain number of values that we can be able to plot on our graph. And because already this is a quadratic equation, we can see that. A quadratic equation with different values that are plotted from the beginning up to the end, it will give us a function like this. And this value will be the bending moment maximum. And because we put this graph below the 0 line, with positive values below the 0 line, we need to put the signs as well to mention that this is our bending moment diagram. Now understand that whenever we're still on the length of the beam, we can use the mathematical function of the UDL. And if we are beyond the UDL, it means we have covered the whole value of the length, then we can use the total value. And this is valid either for the UDL, either for the VDL. Thank you.